I was teaching my son how to fry an egg, but the moment the egg touched the pan, he quickly took it out and put it into his mouth. My son was intellectually disabled. He can't dress himself, and often jumped around like a child. I had been caring for my son for 30 years, until one day I started having headaches. After a hospital checkup, the doctor told me I had been diagnosed with cancer. I felt completely desperate. I didn't know what would happen to my son in the future. Then another accident happened. My son put a metal can into the microwave. Sparks flew everywhere. I rushed to shut off the power, but my son just laughed loudly. At that moment, I knew I had to teach my son to live independently. I started by teaching him how to take public transportation, but he was only focused on eating bread. In anger, I knocked the bread away, and my son felt sad and sat on the ground crying. To make sure he could earn a living, I took him to work at a bakery, but while others carefully prepared sandwiches, my son secretly ate all the ingredients. I slapped him in anger, and scolded him harshly. After that, I once again fell into despair. I bought many books about caring for people with disabilities, and slowly changed my teaching methods. I turned bus routes into simple and fun pictures. On the bus, when my son saw familiar landmarks, he learned to press the stop button in time, and gradually found his way home. I also labeled every appliance at home, and wrote instructions step by step. Then I patiently taught my son how to cook. One day my son asked me to close my eyes, and I opened eyes again. I was shocked. He had cooked an entire meal by himself. For the first time, I truly felt relieved. The next morning, when I went to the bakery and saw my son working seriously, I knew he could finally live on his own. To help my son understand death, I bought 3 chicks and asked him to raise them. The next day, 2 chicks died, but my son believed they had gone to heaven and would come back someday. With no choice, I take my son to a funeral and explain what death really meant. The reason families cried was because they would never see their loved ones again. Not long after, my own funeral was held, but in front of my photo, my son was smiling happily because he had promised me he would never cry. Tears would turn into rain in heaven. My son smiled and said goodbye to me, but tears still fell from his eyes. So did you listen to your mom when you were a child? Please comment.